War. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Now, by my calculations, approximately 65% of you were not born when that song was a hit in 1969. Edwin starred, and it hit the top of the charts during the anti-war movement. And later on in that song, he growls, "The point of war blows my mind." Well, the point of war blew my mind when I was 5 years old. I had drawn a windmill. I ran to my mom to show it to her, and she grabbed it from me and said, "It's a swastika." And you know when you don't know what your mom's talking about, but you know it's not good? I knew it wasn't good. "What's a swastika, Mommy?" Swastika was the sign of the Nazis, and they were evil, and they started World War II, and they killed millions of Jews. Well, were the Jews bad? No, the Nazis were bad. Okay, I feel stupid now. The Nazis were bad, and they did it because they wanted everybody to be the same. And she looked down at me and realized I was only 5 and said we couldn't talk about it anymore. So I'm standing there with my little mind blown thinking, why would people kill other people? Why was it bad to be different? So we humans have been at peace only 8% of recorded history. Only 8%. And the root cause of most war is ideology or differences of opinion. And when you think of your regular life, unless you're a zenned out, maybe partially stoned human, life is full of differences of ideology. You think of marriage, you think of children, you think of the amazing den of interesting political intrigue that is the workplace. It's full of differences of opinion. And one of the issues us humans have is when we have a difference of opinion, we generally think we're right. And we think that the reason we're having an issue and a difference of opinion is because the other person doesn't see what is so clear, which is that we're right. And we think this because we have empirical evidence. So, if I were to ask each one of you, are you open-minded? Are you? Are you? Yeah, of course, yes. So that question is how Paul Sloan opened his TEDx Brighton talk 2 years ago. He said he's asked that question all over the place. And he's an innovation guru, and if you know much about innovation, you know that fostering different ways of thinking and being are key to coming up with innovative ideas. And he said, you never meet anyone who says they're not receptive to other ideas because we're all mental prisoners of our assumptions and beliefs, and that constructs our mindset. So you see the fascinating loop. If I think I'm open-minded, then I'm not open to the idea I might be closed-minded about some things. And so then when I'm having an argument, this is particularly true of marriage, and I'm in marriage number 2, so I'm somewhat of an expert, the other person just doesn't get it. So back to the time when that little squirt was having her mind blown about war. It was 1965 in Montreal, and the peace sign was really big. There were peace marches. John and Yoko were hanging out in the iconic Queen Elizabeth Hotel having a bed in for peace, but that was a little over my head at that point. And I fell in love with the peace sign. And when I found out later that it was created as a sign of nuclear disarmament, with the left bottom side standing for a little n and the right as a little d, I was even more captivated. So as a little kid, seeing this peace sign everywhere, I thought, wow, what if humans could just really focus on the peace sign, and maybe the peace sign could kill war. Maybe they could get together and drink coffee and drink wine, and people from all different races and colors and religions would understand each other. And sure, they might fight a bit, but then they'd leave friends. Well, I thought that because that's what I saw at our kitchen table. My parents fancied themselves hippies. My father smoked the odd doobie, not in front of me, and although I think it had an effect of some description. And They had friends from every religion, every culture, different countries, different colors. I thought that was normal. And Walter and Brenda Garrett also taught their daughters that every religion was worthy, every color was worthy, every person was worthy. So I grew up thinking I was pretty open-minded. And at 22, I took off on a sailboat with 5 guys. Now, I only slept with one of them, so let's just get that out of the way. Everybody always asks. You know, if I had it to do over again. Anyway, so my one partner and I went ashore, and we were on a really remote part of St. Kitts in the Caribbean. And we wandered into the market, and we were the only whites around. And this father asked, "Can my child touch your hair?" And my hair was down to here and really blonde from salt water and sun. And I said, "Sure." And this little kid touches my hair and starts giggling. And before I knew it, there were all these little kids around me touching my hair, and it was simultaneously amazing because all their little shining faces are looking at me and grabbing at me, and then it also felt really weird. And I realized that I had never been in a situation, despite hanging out in the Caribbean for a couple of years, where I was literally the only one I could see who was different. And it occurred to me after that it was fine to be open-minded, but when you're the majority, you don't really question what's going on in your mind as much. So fast forward another 10 years, and I'm having child number 2, and he's this beautiful baby, and he's the crankiest baby you ever met. He would scream like clockwork for 11 hours a day, mostly at night, I kid you not. By hour 9, I would lie on the blankie with him, and we'd both cry. And by age 2, I knew something wasn't quite right. He was missing milestones. He was only 16 months younger than his brother. He wasn't talking. He was having spectacular tantrums, and we couldn't figure out what was wrong because we couldn't understand him. He started banging his head against the wall. I'd shriek at him to stop. I became consumed with what was wrong with my child. And then at age 4, we met with a psychologist who said, "Your son is operating at the level of an 18-month-old. He has autism. He'll never read. He'll never write. He'll never finish school. He'll never leave home, and he'll never have a job." Wow. I still remember those nevers like shots from a gun. So we went home, and I cried for about 2 years, and my wine consumption went up, but I wasn't pregnant, so it was okay. And I took Connor to occupational therapy because people with autism have fine motor problems. I took him to speech therapy. We tried everything. I focused obsessively on what he couldn't do. Meanwhile, his older brother, Max, played with him, fought with him, beat him up, did all the things little brothers do. And by the time Connor was 7, my then second husband said to me when I was crying again in my wine about Connor's future, "Connor has beautiful blue eyes, and he has autism. Why do you want him to be different?" Oh, I should marry him. And the wisdom of that made me cry harder. Thank you, Jay, wherever you are, can't see. So then the first miracle happened. Connor got into the Autism Resource Center. He had been on the waiting list for 3 years, and we had a social worker by the name of Amy Ewart. And she taught Connor how to take turns playing games with other kids, which every kid could learn from, and also how to soothe himself when he was upset. So one day, not too long after that, I was under my desk in the den upstairs thinking the kids were playing, and no, I wasn't hiding. I was swearing and trying to fix my printer. And all of a sudden, I hear, "Mom!" And it was Connor in the doorway. So I sheepishly get up from out under the desk, and I say, "Sorry, Connor, I shouldn't have been swearing, sorry." "Mom, you're very angry." grabs my arm and digs into it. And I said, ow! But I didn't make him stop because I knew what he was doing. He said, breathe with me. So then I'm standing there breathing with my kid who has autism, and I'm realizing he's applying what he's learned from Amy. People with autism, when they are anxious, if you apply deep pressure, it calms them down. And if you breathe deeply, whether you have autism or not, it calms you down. Connor was smart. Now, was that the first time I thought that? Pretty well. Sad to say. Second miracle happens. We meet a special ed teacher by the name of Corrine Taves. Corrine was this amazing, wonderful, gifted educator. She taught each of the children in her class that there are all kinds of intelligence, and every one of them is intelligent. She said some are good at numbers, some are good at writing, some are good at cutting paper up, some are good at being kind without being able to talk. And I saw Connor settle into his skin. He was with a genius who could only see his pure soul and potential, where I had been seeing deficits. And what's more, she could only see pure souls in every child in her classroom. We followed her around to different schools for 5.5 years. In fact, Jay followed her around for a few years because he was the one who drove Connor to and from school when he retired earlier than me. So, at age 11, Connor said, Mom, come here. And he read to me. At about age 14, he taught himself Photoshop, and they think his IQ is about 70 to the degree they can measure it. He created a YouTube channel called Connor Godzilla. People with autism have an obsession, and his is Godzilla. He has 60 Godzilla movies, 90% of which are in Japanese, and he can speak about 20 words of Japanese. He started going on job placements when he was in high school and eventually landed a full-time job at Sarcan, a recycling plant. He moved out at 21, kicking and screaming on the advice of our social worker. I cried for 2 months because Connor cried every time he came over, more wine consumption. And then one day we went to pick him up and he said, hello, family. And Connor was back. So, is Connor's life perfect? No. Does he struggle with things? Yes. He struggles with change. He struggles with boundaries vis-a-vis sexuality. But all in all, Connor is happy in his skin. And his brother Max says he's actually happier in his skin than most people will ever be. Partly because he doesn't really care what other people think. He will tell you exactly what he thinks. And he doesn't really get what autism is, so it doesn't define him, and it hasn't hampered him from doing anything. So what did I learn from that long journey? Well, I learned I was a lot more closed-minded than I had thought. I had a very limited view of what I thought people with autism could do, and I had never thought about it before that fateful day when I heard all the nevers. So then I became curious about other things I might not be as open-minded about. And it turns out that being open-minded is a practice you can adopt. It's not just about some of the things you may have heard about, like driving home a different way. It's also about things like choosing topics where it's a gray area for you and you don't have a strong view, because that'll make you listen more to other points of view. You can also choose, instead of hanging out with your regular peeps who you go for coffee with all the time, if you're working in an office or outside the office, only hanging out with people whose views are the same as yours, seeking different ones. We can tailor all our media now. Why not read other stuff that bugs you and then be curious about why it's bugging you? The amazing Nigerian author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie has a great TED Talk by the name of The Danger of the Single Story. And she said when she was growing up in Nigeria, they had a very poor houseboy working in their home. And one day her family went and met his family. And the mother showed them this beautifully handmade, very intricately patterned basket. And she realized in a flash that she had not thought their family capable of doing anything like that. Not because she had thought about it, but because the single story she had was that they were poverty-stricken, and she didn't think further than that. I think that we really need to cultivate curiosity about different ways of being. Our world is becoming more diverse, even here in Canada. We're welcoming immigrants, and that's wonderful. But we also need to welcome people who were here before many of us got here, like the Indigenous people who still experience a lot of racism. In the corporate world, I was the only woman on a senior team for 10 years. I think we need more women at the senior ranks. I think we need more women on boards. I think we need more people who come from visible minorities, from different cultures, people with disabilities, people who are Indigenous, who can serve as leaders. I think that understanding how to open our minds is one of the most important jobs of our time. Another song that I really like, that more of you might have heard, is one by En Vogue that was called Free Your Mind. And it went, free your mind and the rest will follow. Be colorblind, don't be so shallow. Maybe if we all try and dig a little deeper than the single story, we'll have world peace. Thank you.